I'm Patrick.
I'm Yajaira.
And I'm Justin.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the second episode of our watch-along commentary series, the PY and J podcast. Today's episode, we'll be watching Harold and Maude, directed by Hal Ashby. Feel free to watch along or listen in. Like, share, and subscribe.
So we're watching Harold and Maude, which is I think a very influential and important movie. I think it sets the template for what would become kind of known as the indie film, Sundance film. It's a major influence on a lot of the 90s filmmakers, from Wes Anderson his early films very much reflect this movie. And even you can see it in P.T. Anderson's love of kind of strange characters moving through a hostile world. It's a really it has that bittersweet comedy that I think we associate with really good indie films. I think this is a classic example. When people are like, what's an indie film? Harold and Maude. And yeah, Hal Ashby is a really excellent director. I could talk about a lot about him as we go along here, but he's considered one of the movie brats with Scorsese and Coppola, so he's sort of a forgotten one. And he was a little older, a little more hippie. You'll see that sort of reflected in the movie from the music choices. And he was originally an editor, so he tends to shoot a lot of footage and then cut it down in post. That tends to be his style. Other than that,
I always thought he was more of a stream of conscious type person. Who did Being There?
That's Hal Ashby, Shampoo, The Last Detail.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Because
he's
that's
very
the one thing that I like. Very cerebral. Keep going.
He really likes kind of naive characters moving through kind of the angry world. Characters you can't get a complete read on, which I think is another kind of touchstone for a lot of independent films. Are characters who don't quite match their environment and trying to kind of find ways to stand out so they meet a kindred spirit, and that is the premise of Harold and Maude.
Man, you got me excited about it. I don't know. I love that we keep picking movies that I haven't seen. It's exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's crazy that I haven't seen this movie. I feel like this is it's very well known. And what I really love about it is it's almost like the film that we just shot, Yajaira, where it's the Adele Matthew relationship, where it's stepping stones, right? You meet certain people in your life, and while they're in it, it's they're your whole world, and but in the grand scheme of things, he needed to find this person in order to really, find what's next for him in his life. He was so stunted just by the way he was. He needed to find someone like Maude in order to grow.
Yeah.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's a really solid movie.
Yeah. I liked it more this time than I did the last time I watched it. My best friend in high school really loved this movie. And it's like when you watch a movie after someone told you it's the best movie ever, you're expecting something different, and then you watch it and you're like, what is this? That's kind of how I feel, but I actually really like it.
Yeah, so I have a conflicted relationship with this movie. I really liked Hal Ashby going into college. He was a director I really appreciated. And as I got more into directing, I actually found this movie kind of boring. And there's something about Harold and Maude in particular where it is everybody's who doesn't really like movies' favorite movie. Does that make sense? Your friend Yajaira, it's the people who talk about Harold and Maude are more exhausting than people like us who watch a ton of movies and have really specific and weird favorites. And so there's sort of a cult around Harold and Maude of the most important movie, and I think it's really good. And so I often when I would watch it, I'd be a little more cynical about it. But now watching it again, I was like, oh, this is just kind of a really pure, sweet movie. It's well made, it's super influential, and everyone should see it. If you like indie dramas or comedies or Wes Anderson or P.T. Anderson, they all owe a debt to Harold and Maude, and so it's absolutely worth watching just for that.
Oh man, great. Yes. And a little Bud Cort trivia, because of course I looked this up. Bud Cort grew up super Christian and was headed for the priesthood and got into acting through nightclub comedy gigs. And that's how Robert Altman found him, to give him a part in MASH. And then Brewster McCloud. And then a friend gave him the Harold and Maude screenplay, and after he read it, he related to the macabre the macabre kid in search of a connection. So he was always like an emotional child growing up, and his parents were always very cold to him. So he met Hal Ashby for the audition and just kind of blew him away.
Nice.
Yeah, he's excellent in it. Like, his eyes are just like perfect for this movie.
Yep.
And
he almost reminds me. He's got almost like a Damien from The Omen kind of vibe in the beginning, where you're like, there's like
say that, Patrick.
Yeah. So there's just something unsettling about him as a character, and then. But what's fascinating, I think, just from a performance standpoint, is he starts off, very unnerving, and then towards the end, it's like, you see yourself in the character. It's very relatable. He warms up.
Yeah.
Okay, so evidently, a lot of what Harold is in this movie, like how he breaks that fourth wall, he just chose to do that because he's not classically trained actor. So, like, in some of the scenes, if you look at it, he's, like, killing himself with his middle finger as his mother's talking and would fuck the other actors up. He just felt that that's what his character would do. And how Ashby and him got each other enough where he's like, all right, go apologize. But no, now I want you to do it again in another scene. So it could be something that he's always doing. So I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I am there. I like that like spikes the lens is such a weird. I don't dislike it, but it's a move.
Yeah. Also, there was more sex in the original movie, more kissing and more love. Like they barely kiss in the movie. You just see post-coital because that.
Right.
But I kind of like
thought
that.
It was disgusting. Mostly Robert Evans.
I think that if there was too much sex, it would have taken a completely different turn. I think the fact that it's like it's youthful and sort of innocent, I think that makes their relationship so much more real, because this is the first time he's ever really experienced these things. And like, your first relationship isn't hot and heavy, sex all the time. It's like quirky and fun and fresh and new and
but they should have still kissed, but you don't even see that.
Right.
That's the only thing where I'm like, they never kissed. Like, there should have been like a kissing scene. There should have been something emotional. Just once, a little small. It doesn't have to be the most, a whole like 30 minutes. I'm not saying that. Just like a little something. So I understand it's also easier to see because it's so innocent. Whereas if you would have made it just a smush more romantic, maybe people wouldn't have the same feeling they do about the movie. And they'd have a feeling like all those other people that are talking to the camera. So.
No, I think you're definitely onto something. Yeah, I don't like. Also, that just speaks to how much like Hal Ashby shoots and then would cut out and cut down later, as is his style. If there's 30 minutes of something and they're like, we can go a completely different way, and it doesn't change the movie at all. Like, I think that is both kind of crazy and interesting.
Totally.
Right.
Are you just reading IMDb trivia, Yajaira? Or that cute thing?
No, I'm reading this great interview with Bloodsport about how just his life. And he said that Bruce Gordon was one of the most important people in his life during that period because his mom died right after the movie came out. And he called her and she's like, let me tell you about when my father died. And she's like, yeah, she was like such an important person in my life until the day she died. And that's so beautiful. There's something so beautiful about that. Because that's like part of why we're all in films and we're all filmmakers, right? We want to create these amazing moments in time. And it's like the best and worst things about theater, which is the heightened emotionality of having to do like a theater show every day with the same group of people, and this familial bond that you get when you make a movie, and why it's so important. And you guys are in the trenches together, and so I just, there's a reason that my life is the way that it is, and it's because I want to make films, and that's how I want to make them, Yeah.
Yeah, we all want a life a little more like Maude.
Yes, I guess you could say that. But so now's the point in time that we kind of do our little wrap ups of like what our takeaways were. So do you want to start us off, Justin? Because you are always the most eloquent.
Thank you. No, I felt a deeper connection to the movie. I think probably you watch the movie every like 5-10 years, and you get a deeper connection to it. I think it really stands out to me on how influential this movie is, and I think you can see how it runs through the course of so many movies I would later love, and yet it still feels very much of its time and kind of eternal. And I think that's a really impressive thing to pull off. And I think like if someone was to ask me 50 movies they need to see to understand movies, Harold Maude would 100% be on that list.
Nice.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah,
Agreed,
I go. Yeah,
That's
no,
your
I
first time watching the movie?
Yes, first time watching the movie. I found it to be a beautifully quirky love story that showcases the stepping stones of adolescence and, finding your first love, and how you really grow into the person in many ways that you're meant to be because of the light that you find in someone else. So it's definitely something that I would recommend. I agree with Justin.
Well said.
Yeah, I like it. As the giant nerd that always said, like the one thing that I liked about this one, like Harold and Maude, now watching it again, is I kind of really understand the Maude character so much more because that's literally I was growing up and him as a human being. I always felt I was more of a Maude. I come in, we all have moments with our human beings, and then you're out. It's all about how you change the people around you, which I think is just a great message that you don't see enough. It's like sometimes Justin and I will talk about what happened to those weird movies in the early 90s where you were just supposed to be proud to be who you are in this really earnest, adorable way. And, that's kind of how I feel about this film. I also think it's there was like a Little Miss Sunshine period of Fox Searchlight films that were trying to make $5 million movies that would bring in a return of like $50 to $60 million, right? Which is pretty good for independent movies. And I think if that's the kind of way that you're going to go about as a filmmaker, you really need to watch a movie like Harold and Maude. It's very economical. Like few places that are like steady locations. I think it's also great because sometimes, especially in the digital age, we get caught in how beautiful the cinematography needs to be to tell the story, which I think that's the difference between great directors and, okay directors, but not everyone's going to be great. And it's okay to be visually okay, but to be emotionally excellent, which I think this movie does a really great job with. You can't say this movie doesn't hit those high notes. Visually, it probably could be better. There's probably other directors that would have had a better job conveying to the DP some greater awe-inspiring whatever, but I also love its simplicity, and it still doesn't make the movie anything less just because of it. That's my roundup there.
And he uses other techniques, like he's using production design and the song and the costuming. Like he's always telling the story, even if it's not with the camera. And so, like again, like all the great directors, he uses all the things you get with when you make a movie versus any other artwork to his advantage. You got actors, you got props, you got locations, you got sound, you got score, you have lighting, and he uses it all. And I think that even if I don't have him on the top tier list of great directors, it's still a really well directed movie that's massively influenced.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, that was great, guys. Cool. That was fun. We'll do another one soon.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, thank you so much. And also, we are going to have this on YouTube and our podcast. So if you have any questions or concerns or want to even be a part of this 1 week soon, just let us know. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.